Hey guys, it's towniesimbuilds here, and welcome back to another bite-sized speed build. Now, as you can tell from the title of today's video, we are currently working on a swamp witch hut in the world of Henford on Bagley. Now, unfortunately, spooky season is just about over for 2023, but you know what, I just love a good magical, mysterious build, and here we are. I'm going to squeeze in one more for you guys right before winter and Christmas, and here we are working on the swamp witch hut. Now, unfortunately, this has been one of the builds that I've been working on that has been kind of on the back burner. I've been working on this since early to mid-October, but of course, I had a lot of videos out. I did have a lot of real lore, and also a lot of Halloween-themed build challenges as well. Fortunately, I was able to circle back to it. I did make a few finishing touches to it over the past week, and I'm really excited to finally share it with you guys. Now, kind of going in tune with the times, this build was inspired by a very recent video game by the name of Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with it, maybe some of you may have played the game already, but this was inspired by a very fun and iconic villain. So, spoiler alert, you will meet someone by the name of Auntie Ethel, and she appears to be this very sweet human old lady. But alas, she is not. She is actually a witch, more specifically a hag, and she does have this very interesting, sort of gnarly tree house within a swamp. She's a very fun character, and this build was definitely inspired by that, both in the landscaping and with the build itself. Now, I will admit, the build was really tricky. I was really trying to pull from different inspirations. I was very familiar with the Baba Yaga, which I believe is a Slavic hag or witch. But I was also inspired by sort of, I would say, Afro-Caribbean voodoo, so there is a little bit of a different ethnic influence there. But overall, I did want this house to feel very sort of distressed, very derelict. You can see a lot of the ivy kind of crawling up the walls, and I will tell you guys right now that I did make a huge mistake building this lot. So if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you guys do know that I create limited pack builds, and I completely miscounted my packs. You will see that I do use the Ivy from the Vampires pack, but unfortunately I did go over that amount. In the end, I did use 4 packs like always. I did use Island Living, Jungle Adventure, Realm of Magic, and also the Cottage Living pack. So unfortunately Vampires pack had to go, but thankfully it was just those Ivy pieces. Currently, I'm just finessing a few bits on the outside, of course pulling in more of these lovely bushes and ferns from the base game debug, and of course, switching it over to the evening view. Yeah, I was trying to go off-grid with this build, so a lot of cottage living was very helpful here, mainly with those mason jar lights. Unfortunately, I think they're one of the only off-grid wall lamps, so yeah. Selections are very slim. I always wish for more off-grid options, but unfortunately, that really isn't the case with The Sims. We do have to work with what we have, which for me meant using more objects from the Cottage Living pack, which did include those sort of barrel or wooden stands. You can see some of them on the outside, but of course pulling in more of the mason jars in the inside now, and also more of those debug ivy pieces as well, which you guys saw me place just a little while earlier. The bathroom itself is a little bit wonky, I will be honest with you guys. Of course, this is a swamp house that is pretty derelict, so I didn't really want any fine or elegant appliances inside. And of course, if we are going off-grid, the options are kind of slim. Again, I wish there were more options for us. I feel like they could potentially come in a new pack, but honestly, I'm just crossing my fingers for this and making do with what we have in-game. With that said, the whole kitchen area is also off-grid, so again, lots of cottage living with the counters, the kitchen sink, and the fridge, and then also using that base game option for the oven as well. Now, of course, this is a witch's house, so this would not be complete without the Realm of Magic cauldron, and this was probably one of my favorite areas of the build. Now, I do say favorite areas, despite knowing that this house is very small, so there really isn't a lot to choose from, but this cauldron area was a lot of fun. I do pull that base game wood shop end table, I guess I would call it, the very wonky piece. We do have the matching chair as well that I pair with the Island Living desk. And overall, this is going to be sort of the witch's brewery or witch's study room, if you will. So I do make use out of a lot of those base game jars as well. They could potentially be some very mysterious animal parts, maybe some spiders or frog legs, eye of newt. I think you guys pretty much get my drift. I do love the aspect of foliage here, so I do pull a lot of the vines from Jungle Adventure. You guys saw I also lined the windows with a lot of drying herbs as well. And now just finishing off her desk with some tomes and other materials there. The kitchen I did want to spruce up a little bit. Normally kitchens are a little bit tricky in very tiny builds like this because there is a limited amount of space. So on that note, I did want to get a little bit creative. I did pull some base game shelves and filled them with good old clutter. So mostly base game here, again, more mysterious specimen jars, a tea kettle, and I do believe I put a scale somewhere as well, potentially for measuring out ingredients. Now, I will be honest with you guys, this hallway was a little bit tricky, but thankfully this base game bookcase did pull through, and I was able to fit a little bit of clutter on this as well. Trying to stick with the theme, I did put a base game plant. We do have a voodoo doll there as well, and I do try to squeeze a few tomes from the Realm of Magic pack. I do also add in one more window just to give a little bit more light to this area, and of course using my favorite apple crate box once more. Now, going into debug, I also found these very interesting dolls from the Jungle Adventure pack. So these could be voodoo dolls, they could also be some sort of spirit doll, perhaps they house some power for the witch living here. I'm going to let you guys use your imagination with this build. Now overall, I try to be generally consistent with the space. I did enjoy a lot of those vines from the Jungle Adventure pack, so I do add a few more here. And I also replaced my favorite apple crate box with these pottery bits also from the same pack. I thought perhaps the witch could be storing maybe magical powder in there, crystal dust. Again, I'll let you guys use your imagination. But anyways, we are of course finishing off the build with the second floor, and this is essentially the private quarters or bedroom of the witch. Now, I do want to warn you guys, I think the bed goes through a good 3 or 4 changes. I was very indecisive with the style and color given the theme of this place. But hopefully you guys do enjoy the end result. Now, I will say, apart from the witch's study downstairs, this was probably my favorite space to furnish. I was definitely going for a very cozy feel with a lot of the candles, and of course, I do use some of my favorite objects here as well. So, as you guys know, I love that base game painting set with the runes or symbols on them, so I do place them near the bed. I do pull the apple crate box once more, and the island living chair. You guys finally see the ultimate choice I use for the bed. I do go for a white sheet with a sort of wicker or rattan frame, I do believe it's called. I do use a few more dolls as well just to add to that witchy feel. And of course, you know, we have to collect ingredients. We need mysterious parts for our potions. So I do add a few more jars up here above the bed, along with the hand sculpture and also the tapestry from base game. Circling back out to the outside, I did want to keep things fairly consistent. I did use a lot of these vines from Jungle Adventure on the inside, so I thought the foliage should be consistent on the outside as well, so I do hang them pretty high up on a lot of these swamp trees. I do also circle back to the front porch area, and I do use this herb station object from the cottage living pack. Unfortunately, I don't think it is a functional object, but I do always love to include it, especially given the fact that this witch has a very extensive potion making area. Now, apart from a few foliage adjustments, this pretty much finishes the build itself. Alright guys, and that is a wrap on the Swamp Witch Hut in the world of Henford on Bagley. Now unfortunately, like I said, spooky season is over, but definitely expect more magical and mysterious builds headed your way soon. Just like always, this is still a no CC, no mod limited pack build, and will be available on the Sims 4 gallery for download as well. I'll leave you guys now with the final lot specs and final cinematic shots, so you can see how everything turned out in the end. And of course, just like always, this has been towniesimbuilds, signing off. Thank you so much for watching, guys.